Okay, so today I have got Anna with me, and we're just going to be doing a little bit of a Q&A. Anna has just recently wrapped up spending 6 months working through the program Thinking into Results, which is what I work through with each of my clients. So Anna has very kindly offered her time to share a few insights for those of you out there sort of thinking about what is this all about and is it for me? So perhaps, Anna, if we just start off with perhaps giving us a little bit of a background about yourself and perhaps give me some idea about, what your life was like before you started doing this.
Yeah, so I am a personal trainer.
Mhm.
I went to uni, was a big nerd at school, loved studying. Um, and to be honest, actually, thinking about it, I don't think I liked applying as much as studying. Loved maths, the numbers side, but not so much the application side. So I think that kind of translated into the rest of my life a little bit, where the application side was a bit more daunting and unsure. It's less concrete, black and white answers. So I'd been training for the last 8 years, and during that time I kind of thought, okay, I'd love to start my own business, but I had no idea what that would look like. At one point I was like, oh yeah, I'll train online. This was actually about 4 years ago. I was like, oh yeah, I'll set up an online personal training thing, and then I can travel and do my business while I travel. But then I was like, oh, I kind of didn't really know enough about it, and I found enough excuses not to do it. And I was like, I'll just travel first, and then I'll set up my business, because that's a big commitment. And then I started traveling, and then it kind of just kept happening. I was like, oh, all right, I'll set up my business now. And then I found reasons not to do it. And so, I mean, I'm only 26, but I guess some people start a lot sooner. But I kind of got to the point where I was like, I can always keep studying, but there's something stopping me from really taking the leap and applying the stuff that I've learned. So that's, I guess, what brought me to you and into Thinking into Results, was finding a way to actually take that next big
Mm-hmm.
leap and actually get things happening.
Yeah.
So before Thinking into Results, yeah, I guess I had a bit more fear of risks and failures, and I guess the idea of needing things to be perfect before I get started.
It's an interesting comment you make about perfect. I think sometimes we're always looking for that kind of magic idea of what everything's supposed to be like before we get started on something. So is that what you thought perhaps was the biggest thing preventing you from making the changes before you actually worked through, I guess, and studied yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there's always more that one can know and learn about in any given field. Business is probably something I still don't really know a lot about, but yeah, I guess the thing stopping me was the thought that I needed to know everything before I started, rather than trying to learn on the job and have the confidence that the right support will come to me during that time.
Yeah. And so then how has Thinking into Results helped you with the type of goals you set?
Yeah, so this was a big one for me, actually, because at the time learning about the goal setting, I probably didn't really understand it as well as I do now. It probably only took till the last few weeks that it really kind of cemented for me, because I always understood, dream big, but I didn't really understand the fact that A type goals and B type goals might not actually be getting you further than where you are currently, because you're just applying what you already know. Whereas setting a goal that was so far above what I could even dream possible at this point meant that I was actually taking the actions necessary for that, and getting myself to a point where I was actually in the right vibration, I guess, to attract the right support to get to that point. Whereas if I'd set a smaller goal, that never would have happened. So during the course of it, I realized I was setting my sights a bit smaller than I guess should have, in terms of maybe where I wanted to take a business or work myself. So yeah, now I'm actually setting goals very differently.
Yeah. And so as part of that then, has your perception changed?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents are very risk averse.
Mm.
So they'd always talk about the negative side of things. Oh, okay, make sure you think about this before you do something. Make sure you think about that. And that's maybe what stopped me from starting sooner. And if I kept listening to them now, I definitely wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that whole thing of what you focus your energy on is where you're going to end up. And I started realizing that when people present me with an opportunity, it's not necessarily too good to be true. It's just I have to actually be willing to raise to that level and embrace that opportunity. So
yeah, great way of putting it.
yeah. So I reckon if I'd been told things that I've been told in the last few weeks 6 months ago, I would have freaked out and definitely not taken some of the actions that I'd done. And I've actually noticed that. Like at the time, I'm like, that sounds scary, but I totally get it and I'm going for it. So yeah, massively changed my perceptions.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So I guess that probably leads into the next question then, in terms of like, how would you describe your transformation? And perhaps can you share what you've been able to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, it's felt like a very visible transformation even. A lot of people have kind of noted how much I've grown in the last 6 months. I mean, I've always been someone to keep growing a lot, but in this last 6 months particularly, the amount that I've taken on and been able to do has been vastly more than usual. Previously, I guess it probably took me like 3 years to do 6 months of growth. So, I mean, for me, I was in a very good job, full-time, secure salary and everything. And especially during this crisis, that's something that most people would hold on to for dear life, and be very grateful for as well. And I was, but I also saw the opportunity to start my own business and actually optimize on the fact that people can't go to gyms and train there and training them outside of that. And so instead of staying in my comfort zone, I was like, no, you know what? I'm going to take on this challenge and I'm finally going to do what I've been dreaming of doing. And yeah, so now I'm putting into practice everything that I've been learning for the last 6 months. And it's pretty exciting stuff. It's really good to see how the repetition and the change of perception and everything over the last 6 months have brought me to this point.
And so how do you feel about yourself at the moment?
Good. It's nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to stay that way. I'm
Yeah.
really excited and glad that I've finally taken this step, and that the payoff has been so amazing. Like I knew from the start that investing into thinking into results was going to be fantastic. But I probably didn't expect it was going to get me to this point so quickly, especially. Yeah. So no, I'm really excited about how everything's going, and yeah, nervous, I guess, to see how it keeps going.
So that, I guess, goes back to the comment you made about the goals and setting your sights on something that you really want, even if it feels quite big right now. If it's sort of not equal parts terrifying and exciting, then you're perhaps playing a bit too small.
That's exactly it. Yeah. That's probably exactly where I'm at.
Yeah, fantastic. And so if you were to sum up your experience in one sentence, what would you say?
I'd say, what would I say? I'd say it's been phenomenal. Like it's been so worth it. And that anyone who was looking to get themselves to that next level, it would be almost like an automatic decision just to do it. Like I didn't need to be sold on the idea. I came to you thinking, okay, I need that next step, and didn't even think about how much it might cost. I was like, I'm just going to make it happen. And that's exactly what I did. And it's been completely worth it. And I mean, I came to you pretty broke.
Yep. You did.
And I knew, like, you can make as many excuses as you like, but if I wanted to really make that next step, then I got to just make it happen. And I did. So I made it work, and it's really paid off. So
yeah. And so would you say then that the return on investment, like, is, I guess the value that you've received from working through this and what it's setting you up for is way more than the actual investment that you put in?
You can't even put a number on it, really. Like, if someone asked me how much this was worth, I wouldn't know what to tell them. It also really depends on the person. For me, knowing that I was investing a lot of the money that I had
Yeah.
was probably one of the big things that pushed me to make sure I stayed on top of it and got the most out of it. Whereas if it was pennies, I probably would have given up, to be honest. I would have been like, oh, I can always go back and do that another time.
Yeah, it's easier to stay in your comfort zone.
Exactly. Whereas I was already out of my comfort zone. I'm like, I'm investing a lot of, what I had, and it's been so worth it. Like, I wouldn't change anything.
Oh, that's really wonderful to hear, because it always, from my perspective, it's always really fabulous to watch everybody's journey and see how they blossom and grow. And people aren't coming to me broken. They're just coming to me going, what can I do next? And being able to step into, I guess, their power and their awesomeness is a really, really cool thing to watch. And so I often say, that often you need a telescope to look back at where you've come from. Would you say that that is the case for you?
I remember you saying that to me on day one, and I was like, oh yeah, I wonder what that would even look like. And that telescope is still growing its lens, like where I am now compared to in another 6 months, just through continually applying everything that I've learned, because it doesn't stop now. It just keeps going. I can revisit stuff. There's still so much more I can get out of this that that I probably just didn't absorb the first time round. So yeah, it's amazing.
Well, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for spending your time today to actually share some of your feedback and I guess what you've experienced. Because I think it's really wonderful to actually hear, and for others out there who may be thinking about whether or not they're ready for taking the next step. What would you say about, I guess, being ready?
You're never going to be ready. I know, like, everyone says that. That's such a common thing. I heard that all the way, growing up and with my learning, you're never going to be ready. But there I was wanting to start my own business and never being ready, and I'm still not ready, but I'm going for it. And I wouldn't say it's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. It's bloody hard, but I think I was a lot more scared than I should have been. I think if you really want something, you'll make it work. Whether you've got no time in the world, sleep a bit less, put in the hard yards, and the return will be so much more. I think saying you're not ready for something just means it's very daunting, but it's something to overcome.
Yeah, fantastic. And so we've absolutely seen that you've done that, and I wish you all the best for your next steps. It's pretty exciting to see where all this goes. I'm going to miss having you as a client, but it's not the end of the road. But congratulations, and thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thank you, Brie. It's been great working with you.
Wonderful. Thank you.